Hey y'all. So, I have a lot to talk about, but I guess as I feel compelled to talk about different things, I will. But tonight, I felt I feel like everybody talks about relationships, and the guys are talking about the girls, and the girls are talking about the guys, and the gays are talking about the guys, and whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever. There's way too much discord, way too much dissension in the genders. Like, these gender wars need to stop. Like, cut it out. Like, for real. I'm so over it. It's just like, at the end of the day, and here's what I really want to say. At the end of the day, you like who you like, you don't like who you don't like. So focus on the ones you like and leave the ones you don't like alone. You know what I mean? Learn yourself. Learn the type of person you want. Think about the character you have, the character you want your person to have. You know what I mean? Am I in a relationship? No. Am I single? Yes. Have I been single for a while? Yes. Have I made bad choices in men before? Yes. Did I know I was making bad decisions in men every single time? No. Sometimes, maybe, but I had hope. Right? First of all, stop dating people who you think you can change. And that's where I'll start. You know what I mean? Stop dating people who you think have potential. If they're not who you want them to be, or how you want them to be, or they're not performing in the way you need or desire, stop getting with people thinking that, oh, if I get with them and, I show them this part of me, or I'm this way, or I'm that way, or I do this thing or that thing, they're going to automatically change because I'm this amazing person. Because that's not going to happen. What's most likely to happen is you're going to be the one to change, because their lack of ability or inability or lack of desire to, for the lack of a better term, conform to what you desire to have in that person is going to create such discord in your own life, in your own brain, in your own head, in your own body, that you're going to change. You're going to be a version of yourself that you don't desire. It's not always easy to leave someone when you realize they're not the one for you. But I think oftentimes we get into these relationships with people knowing they're not the one for us, but we have all of these things that we like. It's like the 80-20 rule, but it's more like the 20-80 rule. This person has 20% of what you want and 80% of what you don't, but you think you can make up for the 80% and teach them or show them or love them into it, or buy them into it. And then you're the one who ends up disappointed, and then you feel like you were taken advantage of, you feel like you were taken for granted, you feel like, you feel like you're this great person who is just misunderstood. When truly, it's you who misunderstands you. It's you who who doesn't truly know what they want, who is allowing people to dictate what happiness looks like to you. You know what I mean? You have this aesthetic, and this person might look the part, but they really, in character, are not the part. And so you get disappointed, and y'all are throwing this narcissist word around way, way, way too much. Not everyone who disappoints you is a narcissist. I think sometimes, maybe even oftentimes, a Now, don't get me wrong. I've dated narcissists. I've been with narcissists. Yes, my last ex, my most recent ex was a narcissist, you know. But I've dated men who were not narcissists. I've dated men who I felt like took me for granted. But people are only going to do what you allow them to do. People are only going to give as much as they desire to give. And the less they give that you allow, the less they will give because you'll allow it. You know, stop getting hung up on, you know, who you fell in love with in the beginning. Because unfortunately, most people are not genuine in the beginning. You know, and I don't want to say especially men, because of course I'm a woman. And, you know, innately I want to say especially men, right? But excuse me, it's not especially men, because there are women who do it too. And I've known women who are like that, who will get with a man under a certain pretense because he has something to offer, not necessarily, you know, someone she wants to be long term, but, you know, sometimes it is just a meal. You know, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's whatever resources he might have. There could be any number of things. You know what I'm saying? But I think all of this dissension is coming from the fact that a lot of people, you know, live by this, oh, to get over one, you got to get under another. And that's wrong. And I think there are a lot of hurting people, and continuing to hurt people, because those hurt people. And then sometimes the people who got hurt end up hurting other people because they're still stuck in that hurt, instead of allowing themselves to move past that hurt, instead of allowing themselves to heal from that hurt. And what I also believe is that it's not necessarily about healing from the hurt of that very past relationship. Sometimes it's healing from multiple relationships past. Sometimes it's healing from things you endured when you were a child, when you were a teenager. You know, sometimes it's that abandonment. You know, sometimes it's that trauma of some sort. You know, it could be any number of things that you may need to heal from, and you're looking for your partner to fulfill that, and it's just not fair, and it's not realistic. And, you know, if you're coming into something unhealed, you're bound to be disappointed. You're bound to get in a relationship that is going to be unfulfilling, and you're always going to be searching, you know? I hate hearing these stories, you know, listen, because I've been seeing so many of these freaking videos of men taking women out to places like Denny's or any place. I don't care if it's Denny's or if it's freaking Prime Grill, Ocean Grill, or fucking whatever, right? It doesn't matter what the restaurant is. I feel like this. If your intention is to take a woman out to dinner because you expect to give her dick at the end, right? Make that clear. Don't invite someone out knowing that you have an ulterior motive, and then get mad that you chose to spend the money that you chose to spend, and she's not trying to sell her pussy for the money you chose to spend. You can get a prostitute. Prostitutes like to eat, you know? Matter of fact, you don't even have to feed her. Just give her the money and she'll fuck you, suck you, and do all kinds of other stuff to you. You know? Oh, I can't say those words, huh? Maybe I'll have to edit this. I don't know. For now, I'm going to just leave it. If I get flagged, I'll fix it, whatever. But, ladies, conversely, right? Because there are also women who do similar things, you know, where you're going out, girl, he's this, he's that, or, you know, he's physically unappealing, aesthetically unappealing, or he's short, or he's fat, or, you know, he's not this enough or not that enough. Maybe he's too nice. You know, you feel like you can get over on him, so I'm gonna have this meal. You know what I mean? Girl, I ain't gonna do nothing with him. I'm gonna get this nigga to buy me a meal, you know, and do this, and I'm gonna get him to do that, but that's it. You know, so knowing that you don't want something serious, and sometimes these men actually do want something serious with you, and then, you know, you with your selfishness are putting on a front. I think if everybody came, honest and truthful, you know, about what they truly want, and were genuine about what they truly want, a lot of this dissension, a lot of this war that we have with each other could be dissolved. I don't think the issues we have are so grand that they can't be fixed if you just are honest up front. Just be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself what you want. Be honest with that person on what you want. You know what I mean? And if they don't want the same thing, it's okay. I saw this thing, it popped up on my For You page, and the woman was like, oh, you know, you want these women to be like this and like this and like this and like this, and you know you don't want anything with them, just be honest. And he's like, well, if I'm honest, she's going to say no. Motherfucker, that's rape, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you know, you're pretending to be this person, you know, no, you're not technically forcing them to do it, but you're coming in under a false pretense that you're this amazing person, only so you can get the ass, only so you can break her. Some people come into your life to break you, so you can be reminded who you are, so you can be reminded what you're worth, so you can decide your worth, so you can learn the flags, green, yellow, and red, to look out for. You know, for a long time, I didn't want to come and talk, you know, about relationships, because, you know, before I was talking about relationships all the time, and, you know, talking about hobos and stay away from the hobos and all of this. And I went and got with a motherfucking hobo, and he turned my life upside down. And now I'm in a position that isn't the most ideal. You know, grateful for the resources that I have, the support that I have, but still, you know, in a position where, you know, it's less than ideal, you know, where I'm not used to being in. But I also know that, you know, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And I played a stupid game with a stupid motherfucker, and I won some stupid motherfucking prizes. And here we are, you know, and I'm not blaming him, I'm blaming myself, because I knew. You know, I knew. Deep inside knew. But I think sometimes we think we're healed from our past, from our traumas, and the universe will present us with similar challenges to see if we're actually healed, to see if we've actually learned, to see if we've actually grown, you know, and it's up to you to say, you know what, this looks eerily familiar. Let me not, you know, but I think sometimes we get caught up in this looks eerily familiar, but I don't want to judge everyone the same. When, you know, you're not necessarily judging everyone the same, you're mindful of the situations you've endured, of the things you've seen, of the experiences you've had, and you're removing yourself before you hurt yourself. You know what I mean? I think also a lot of people are getting hurt, like physically hurt. You know, they're losing their lives because everybody has a breaking point. And you don't know how many times this person may have gotten abandoned or hurt or lied to or somehow toyed with, that you're the last straw. You know, That, and sometimes people want to bring you to the brink. People want to bring you to, like, they want to rim you, but not sexually. They want to rim you, and then, try to bring you back from it, and that's a dangerous game. That's a dangerous, how many dudes I've had tell me, you look so cute when you're mad. You're beautiful when you're mad. I love it when you're mad. You sound so cute. The way you curse when you're mad. And I'm always reminded in those moments, this ain't gonna work. Because as I've mentioned before, I always tell people, just let me be nice. Just let me be nice. I want to be nice. I'm a nice person. I'm a kind person. I don't go out of my way to hurt people. I don't go out of my way to be untoward toward people. I don't go out of my way to, do things that I want. I am a firm believer in doing to others as you would have them do unto yourself. And there have only been 2 relationships that I could have seen myself going to jail. And that was with my son's father and with this most recent relationship that I was in. And they were 2 of the people who love to see me angry. My calm stirred something up in them that they just couldn't receive. They couldn't accept. Most people who know me know that I'm not a yeller. I'm not a screamer. I'm not a fighter. I'm not into any of that stuff. And then when you get me to that point, I know it's over. Because the fact that you could bring me there is dangerous. So you gotta go. That's why I always say, just let me be nice, because I like to be nice. I want to be nice. I don't want to be angry and yelling. Like, I don't want to be like, this motherfucker's calling me. He just walked in the door. He's kissing on me. He wants some pussy. Here. I don't want to be like that, or pushing him off, or any of that stuff. Like, I don't want to be turned off from you because you are toxic, because you like to see toxicity, because there's so many people who think you don't really know a person until you see them angry. And I don't think that's true. I think that it is important to see how people respond when they're upset, but not necessarily angry. You know what I mean? I don't want to push the person that I'm with to the brink of breaking my neck, shooting me, stabbing me, killing me, or, doing something to my son, or, someone close to me. That's never my goal. I think it's important that you pay attention to that. And if you thrive on toxicity, if you thrive on having people that you can push their buttons and push to the limit, you probably need therapy. You probably need to speak to someone. You probably need to see someone. You probably need to talk to someone about why is it that you only respond to toxicity. Because at some point, isn't peace better? So many people say, oh, be his peace, be his peace, be his peace. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to be anyone's peace. I am peace. And when you come as peace as well. We are peace, 2 peace in a pod. Not peace. if I am coming with peace, I need you to come with peace too. That doesn't mean that we're not going to argue. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have disagreements. That doesn't mean that we're not even going to get angry sometimes. But I think what people really need to see when their partner is upset is how they argue. You know, how you argue with someone, the things they say, the way they act towards you, how they make you feel will tell you everything you need to know about how that relationship is going to go. And you have to decide if that's something you want to work through. You know, if it's something that you don't like about, you know, how they respond. Or if you say, you know what? No, I see how you are. You know, it's funny because a lot of men will say that women don't create safe spaces, you know. And they say that when a woman gets angry, she'll use the things against you that you told her about you. And that's not always true, you know. Have I done that before? I have. Is it a regular occurrence in relationships? It's not. Normally, by the time I get to the point of saying some slick shit back to you, it's because of all the times that you'll use the things that I've said to you against me. And that's why I personally struggle with being vulnerable with men. I hate crying, especially in front of men. I hate, you know, expressing sadness or any type of damsel-like needs, if you will, or situations, if you will. You know, I don't talk about really my relationship with my family too much because it's usually thrown back at me. You know what I mean? In a way to make it hurt. And I'm like, well, I've already gotten over, you know, this pain or that pain. I've already gone through those motions and emotions. So you can't hurt me, but thank you for letting me see that if you could, you would certainly do it. If you could, you would try, you know, but anything that you've done has already been done. Anything that you say has already been said, you know, either by the person that I don't, you know, have a relationship with, or by someone in my past who's already done it. So I already know what to look for. Am I disappointed? Yeah. Am I hurt? Nah. Am I watching you? Yeah. Is it over? Absolutely. Because I can't trust you. You're not a safe space for me. You know, and there have been very few men who have been truly and honestly a safe space. I can say of all the men in my life that I know, whether dated or have had friendships with, you know, a safe space will probably be 2. You know, and I'm not including my son. Yeah, I can say that there are probably 2 men, maybe 3, who have been a safe space for me to truly be vulnerable, you know, or maybe not be vulnerable, right? Because like I said, I really don't like to be vulnerable in front of men, but who allow me to express myself in a way where I'm not judged or ridiculed or, you know, pitied or anything like that, you know. So, first heal yourself. I think a lot of the dissension is because we are personally not healed. You know, we talk a lot about, you know, daddy trauma, you know, women having daddy trauma, and I don't think enough emphasis is put on mama trauma. And that's something I think I'm going to talk about later on, like in another post, because this one is already almost 30 minutes. But if you've gotten this far, thank you so much for sticking around and hearing me talk. But honestly, you've got to heal yourself before you can allow someone in your life. It's not someone else's job to heal you. It's not someone else. Now, if you guys come together and say, hey, I have this trauma, and, that person says, hey, I have this trauma, let's heal each other, knowing we're going to trigger each other through our trauma that we're healing from, then, peace be unto you, But if I can't even say if because some people have trauma and they don't feel like their trauma is affecting their life now. And that's why they keep repeating the same cycles, because they're not tying it to, they're thinking that they're just getting the same person in a different body, not realizing that they're not healing from the trauma that they had. Maybe it is daddy trauma. Maybe it is mommy trauma. Maybe it's, something else. Maybe it's friend trauma. It could be any number of things, but you're not dealing with that first experience where it all started. That first experience that had you feeling the way you're feeling and have you continuously finding the same person in a different body. You're not healing from that first hurt. And because you're not healing from that first hurt, you're looking for someone to heal you from that hurt. And when they don't, you're angry, you're mad, you're sad, you're, narcissistic. Because sometimes those situations do breed narcissists. I'm not an expert in narcissism. But like I said, I've dated a few narcissists. I've made it a point to understand those behaviors, mostly, honestly, so I didn't come off as or become a narcissist. So I strongly believe that if we were to do some healing, and I know, unfortunately, a lot of men don't want to go to therapy, but therapy is so healing. It can help you so much, and I think it's because men don't want to be vulnerable. And I get it. It's hard to be vulnerable. But unfortunately, it's also hard to have a relationship with someone, or to have a healthy relationship if you've never seen a healthy relationship, or if you've never been in a healthy relationship, or, if the only relationships you've seen are the ones on TV, because now you're like, oh, that's just fairy tale. That's just TV land. It's really not. You really can have a healthy relationship with a partner, with the right partner. It doesn't have to be TV land. It doesn't have to be any of those things. And I think that's why I was single so long before my ex, and why, I'm single now. Maybe I am, I've had men tell, you live in a fantasy world. I don't live in a fantasy world. I live in peace. And I just want someone who wants to live in peace too. Not just anyone. Because somebody else posted the other day, oh, it's my birthday. Say happy birthday. And by the way, are there any women who really want a man? So I'm going to touch on that in another post. Because there are too many people, men and women, but I only date men, so we're going to talk about men. Excuse me. There are too many men who think that just because they're a good guy, that they are supposed to get a chance. And sometimes those so-called good men, or think they're good men, are some of the most toxic men. Because their feelings get hurt fast. Even though they don't express it outwardly, when they get their feelings hurt, oh man, there's some evil motherfuckers, boy. Evil motherfuckers. And you learn that just from not saying hello, or, from not accepting their advances. I can't tell you how many women have given me, myself included, you know, have given a man their phone number just to make sure he doesn't flip out, you know, or get angry. I've given men my number and then blocked them when I was far away. You know what I mean? Because nowadays, they'll be like, oh, I'm going to text you. Or text me right now. Because they know that women give out fake numbers. All right, bet. I'm going to text you. You got my number? But I'm going to block your ass. You know, and I've done that a couple of times. Because some dudes are aggressive. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to talk about that in a different post, in a different live. Well, I might go live. I think I'm going to go live. Because, you know, here I'm just talking to a camera. There's really no dialogue back and forth. But I think I want to, you know, go live and start talking my shit again. You know, and so what if I made a mistake and got with a hobo even though I said don't do it? Now I got more to talk about because, you know, I relearned. Or I was reminded, you know, why, yes, meet people where they are, but don't look for the potential. If the person they are today isn't the person you're going to want tomorrow, don't pursue it. You know, you're going to save yourself a lot of hurt, a lot of heartache, a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment. You know, you're going to save yourself from a lot of things if you realize if this person remains, if the person I meet today, what can I say today? If after the veil comes off, and I now see this person's true colors, if they never change, am I okay with that? Can I see myself with this person for the rest of my life? 5 years, 10 years? And if the answer is no, and you know that you actually want a long-term relationship, marriage, etc., you have to be strong enough to leave. Yes, it's going to hurt if you love them. Yes, you're going to feel feelings. Yes, it's going to be like, am I making the right decision? But yes, you are. I promise, I promise, I promise, I promise. If the person that person is today is not the person you want to see in the future, and they're not actively making strides to be a better version of themselves, for themselves, not for you, you got to cut ties. Because you can't make somebody change for you. That change has to come within, and it has to come from them on their own accord, because that is what they want. And not on some spin the block shit. Because usually when they spin the block, they're just trying to get you back in. Most of the time, they're just trying to see if you're still stupid. And unfortunately, a lot of times we are. I've been there. So, I'm going to end this live because we're already at 33 minutes. Well, in this video, because we're already at 33 minutes. If you got this far, drop a comment below. You know, I'm going to be, you know, checking. Obviously, Facebook sometimes will tell you when people are commenting on your stuff. But I didn't know that I had restrictions on my account, you know, because before I used to get so much engagement, and then, you know, I wasn't getting engagement. I wasn't seeing people. Like, it was weird, you know. So I think my stuff got like pushed down deep in the algorithm, and I was probably like shadow banned. So I'm trying to come back out of the shadows, you know what I'm saying, and you know, be seen again and talk again, and, you know, engage with you guys again, you know. And like I said, you know, I just relaunched my bedroom candy page, business rather, and, you know, I'm getting started in some other business ventures. And I'm excited about them. And, you know, I want to talk to you guys about some of that stuff. But mostly I just want to shoot the breeze with you guys. You know, I'm not an expert on any, you know, love things. You know, I know what has not worked for me. And I know what I am learning. Am I ever going to get married? I don't know. Do I care? Not anymore. Oh, man, it used to be such a big thing for me. I'm not going to talk about that now. We're going to talk about that in another post about, you know, letting go of the need for love and the peace it brings when the only love you need is your own. I don't know if I'll ever get into another relationship or if I'll ever find love, like true love. Because I still don't believe I've ever had true love from a man, outside of my son, of course. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever truly experienced it. And I don't care anymore. But again, like I said, I'm going to address that in another post. Maybe I'll go live because I think I want to hear what some of you guys are going to be talking about, in that. And, kind of engage and, just shoot the breeze and see what you guys have to say about, what love looks like to you and, where things are going. Some of you are going to have some great things to say. Some of you are going to have some good advice to give. Some of you are going to have some not so good things to say or some bad experiences and stuff like that. And, I want to talk to my people. It's been a while. We haven't engaged. We haven't talked. I'm finally getting out of that depression that I was depressed for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. And I went dark. But I needed that darkness because I lost my light. The light in my eyes was gone. Like, even now, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I look tired, but I'm at peace. I have peace. I am peace. I feel peace. Despite my circumstances, I still, as it relates to a relationship or being with a man or, having that type of thing, I am at peace. So, thank you for hearing me talk. I think I'm going to put this on my YouTube. I might pull some parts out to put on my Facebook. And, if you guys want to engage, maybe you'll listen to the full video here on YouTube. But yeah, I think I'm going to put this on YouTube since it's a long form video. Maybe I'll make it 2 parts. My nephew told me I need to do my videos shorter because, I talk. And when I talk, I go. So I don't want to keep you guys forever. But I'll be having stuff to say, and then, I don't know, I guess it's my so-called ADHD. I go off on a tangent and, look, I just said I was going to get off at 30 minutes, right? First I said it was like, oh, we're going on 20 minutes. I'm about to get off. In 30 minutes, I'm about to get off. Now we're going on 40 minutes. I'm really getting off. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you. And I look forward to our conversations. I look forward to us re-engaging and, getting to know each other again. I got some other things coming for you guys that I want to tell you guys about, but, I don't want to, put too much out there until, everything is set in stone and things are actually done. I don't know if I'm going to wait until I'm in my own place and, have, for lack of a better term, the freedom to express myself in the way that I desire, or, if I am going to start it sooner than later. But I've got some things in the works that I think some or most of you will appreciate. And I'm looking forward to just re-engaging. It's been a long time. And, am I depressed? I don't think so. Do I have depressive moments? I do. But I'm not sad anymore. And I'm grateful for that. I'm not grateful for anything else. I'm just grateful that I'm not sad anymore, because I was coming down on myself like, damn, Lise, you knew better, and you put yourself and your son in this position, you know what I mean? So, yeah. I'm not sad anymore. And I'm not angry with myself anymore. I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned, even though some of them were lessons I could have avoided. Either way, I'm still grateful. Because the things I learn, I can teach my son not to do. They say the heart wants what the heart wants, but the heart is not always right. They say follow your heart, but you have to be discerning. You have to be discerning. If you're going to follow your heart, you have to follow your healed heart. Your healed heart. All right? Anyway, That's all I got for you. Mwah. Smooches, people. Love you.